Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I'm doing something I've never done today. I'm using StreamYard, trying to bring you a video production. I'm going to be introducing Terry Sacka of Cornerstone Asset Metals today. We got several questions to let him to teach us and train us and explain to us about precious metals in a time of emergency. So, who's Terry Sacka? Well, he's a prophecy student, and he reads his King James Bible, and he wants to help the Prophecy Club and the Kingdom of God win souls, and he's willing to do that even if he has to lose money. And to me, there's very few business people that want to lose money, but he understands the Kingdom of God is more important, so that counts for a lot for me. And he's owned Cornerstone Asset Metals now. I believe it's like 8 to 10 years. We'll have to get him to correct that. But anyway, so Terry Sacka, let me try to bring you on here. Terry, welcome to the Prophecy Club.
Hi, Stan.
Okay, get this all correct here. All right, so how many years have you been in precious metals now?
Well, it's been probably about 13 years now. We actually started out in a more of the futures aspect of it, and then we went into the actual physical metal itself. And so we've been physically doing it for about 10 years.
Okay, so I've got some questions here. First question is, so we are assuming that most of the people watching or listening right now are not precious metals experts. They don't know about finances and economy and stuff like that. So if they're just a normal, typical, simple Christian like myself, and they know that some trouble is coming, they're going to find themselves in an emergency situation. As an expert in finance and precious metals, what would you suggest that they do?
Well, it definitely comes down to, silver itself. And what's interesting is, I'll grab this, just so I happen to have it here. This is actually a silver certificate dollar. It actually says on the very top, back in the day, it actually said a silver certificate. Now, this was our money. And when we go into the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, it says grains of silver is definition of money. Our money always was physical silver. So now we've evolved. We're about 50, 60 years now away from, and we don't realize the dollar bill we're holding now is actually an IOU. It's a debt instrument. And so if we just go back to the concept of what money really was, that's what makes silver so valuable, because it's not just a precious metal. It's not just for technology. It actually is what, number one, God gave us as money. Haggai 2:8, the silver is mine, the gold is mine. But constitutionally, silver is our money. So I go back to Job 27, where the wicked pile up silver like dust. But today, instead of silver as money, they're piling up fiat currency. So as this currency collapses, the wicked are going to be held with a worthless form of what they think is money. And I truly believe that if we go back to our constitutional root, let alone our biblical root, and own grains of silver in coin form would be best, we will be benefited as a kingdom, because that, as God always says, I do, dishonest weight and measures. It's an abomination, an abomination. It almost vomits out of his mouth. He really dislikes dishonest weight and measure. That is our paper currency today. And what we're doing in printing trillions of dollars out of thin air is we're diluting our ability to have buying power, whereas the silver physically will be our money that sustains our buying power and then increases it. I think the best way to probably explain that is, back in the day, a paper dollar, which was this one here, actually, the silver certificate, the paper dollar and a physical 1 ounce of silver, they were equal. They both bought us about 3 gallons of gas. Well, today, if I go and sell my silver, not only do I buy the same 3 gallons of gas, but I can buy today at this rate probably about 9 gallons of gas. So I've actually increased my buying power by holding on to silver these years. Where if we take our paper dollar out, how many gallons can we buy? It used to buy 3 gallons back in the day. Now it doesn't even buy a quarter of a gallon. So we ask ourselves, what would we rather have? And in case of an emergency, it would be that sustains our buying power. And it shows that physical silver obviously would be that.
The emergency arises. they find themselves in an emergency, is there a time or a place where they would want to have rhodium or palladium, or should they just stick with gold and silver? If so, why?
Yeah, I would definitely be sticking with gold or silver, and I would definitely more silver. Gold is very difficult to get in small increments right now. Matter of fact, almost non-existent. But gold is going to be very expensive. And so a silver coin will allow us, I call it $100 bill in the future. It'll allow us to take a silver coin and use that if we need to buy gas or food or barter for other products, goods, or services. Gold is good, but it'll be very expensive and very valuable. So you would have a more difficult time doing the transfer. If you want to buy groceries and you have a gold coin, it could be worth $3,000. So how do they give you change? So silver is definitely more valuable. The other metals, they're wonderful, but they're really more used for emission controls, rhodium and palladium especially, really, really big in the catalytic converters of automobiles. Most people just don't have a clue what it is. And silver not only has its value, but for those that actually own the old pre-1964 US quarters, they actually contain silver. It's something that can be identified. It's something that everybody knows, and it can be bartered and exchanged really easy. So I would definitely be sticking with physical silver over gold and no other metal really, because no one really would understand how to exchange it.
Okay, so we're in an emergency situation. When is it appropriate to have gold versus silver, and when is it appropriate to have silver as opposed to gold, again, in an emergency?
I think that comes down to how much need you have. And so if you need, it depends on the expense. And so if you need something that's very expensive, or you want to do a barter for a larger transaction, then gold would be good, because you could just use a 1 ounce coin and you'll be exchanging a few $1,000s of value. Where silver, you would need more of them if you have a large transaction. So gold is wonderful for larger transactions. Silver will be good for the smaller incremental ones. Let's say you just want to exchange for a couple chickens, or you want to go to a grocery store where there is places already, North Dakota and up in the Northwest regions, they actually have small grocery stores where you can go in with silver, they'll weigh it, give you a chit that where you can then go and use that credit in the store, and you just use your silver for the purchase. So it's pretty neat. We're actually doing it now. It's just a matter of the other states or where you're located. You know, they'll catch on in the time of emergency for sure.
Okay, so Shane Warren says that silver is going to skyrocket far more than gold. Why would that even take place?
Well, gold is considered a tier 1 asset, and it's a little complicated, but basically the government made gold tier 1, meaning it's equal to and fungible. Fungible means it can be equally traded with currency, US treasuries, bonds, and gold. They're all equal. They're tier 1 assets. I kind of technically don't trust that, because the government can say it's tier 1, it's form of money, then therefore confiscate, turn it in. Silver is industrial. Now, it was our money back in the day. It is biblically, of course, still the form of money, but silver is industrial. It is needed in everything. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now if it wasn't for silver. So silver has such a high industrial demand that the actual supply itself is an issue. We have really depleted a vast majority of the silver, above ground silver supplies. I believe he's saying that because gold could go up to, let's say, $3,000 or $4,000 here in the near future. In the process of gold going up, let's say 100%, silver will go up 500, 1,000%. So the amount of power we have for purchasing power will be extraordinary in silver versus gold. And I'm assuming that's probably why Shane Warren had that in the dream, because silver is just going to be so valuable as a form of money, because it's not a tier one asset. It's actually we, the people's form of money. And that's the value.
Well, I can see a time where, let's say that the economy's falling apart. We're literally down trying to get a chicken to eat or something like that. If you pull out a gold coin, you can buy the whole market.
That's right.
It's big.
Yes.
But pulling out a handful of silver coins is probably going to get you everything you need. So there's a place for a gold coin that might be buying a place on an airplane to get you and your family to safety. But then there's also a place for silver. So we need to have both. Would you agree?
Yes. I would agree, because you're exactly right. Let's say you're stuck somewhere. Let's say all of a sudden this hits and you're 1,000 miles from your home. I always plan this when I used to travel. I would carry gold coins with me just for that reason, because I can give a few gold coins to someone and say, hey, drive me all the way back home, and they're going to do it.
Right.
Whereas silver, you would need a big pile to motivate someone to do that. Silver is for smaller transactions. Gold will be for larger ones for sure.
Okay. So let's assume that they've got money in some kind of a retirement account. Can they take that out of the retirement account and actually put that in literal physical gold, silver, rhodium, or something like that? If so, how?
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's the main driver right now. My concern is in retirement accounts that a lot of people are in what we call paper investments. And so they're invested, and they even have advisors, which I used to be an advisor. I have more financial licenses than the average financial advisor. So I understand the world. They will try to get people to go into paper assets. That would be saying, oh, we could do gold and silver for you in paper form, an ETF. But in the future, with what's coming, paper is just what it is, paper. At the end of the day, this is paper. It can burn. Gold and silver is real money. They are the forms of money defined as real money. And so in the IRA, in the retirement accounts, it's a super simple process. We actually use one of the greatest custodians in the country, right out of Texas there. They're dynamic, they're professional, and they, within a few forms of paperwork, they can actually transfer whatever amount you choose to from your retirement account. They can transfer that money over to your precious metals IRA that you open with them. And then we buy physical gold and silver for you. It goes into a depository vault in your name in that IRA that the custodian manages. That way you have actual real physical. Now, the benefit to that, it is in a retirement account. And so until you take money out of your retirement account, you don't really have to pay any taxes. Let's say an emergency does hit. All of your money is in a retirement account in paper. You're in trouble because, number one, good luck getting it out. Two, good luck selling the investment at that point. Where if it's in physical metal in the retirement account, that physical metal can actually be distributed to you. You can do a distribution and have the physical gold and silver sent to you. Now, once you do that, you create a taxable event that you'll deal with the following year, but you have the ability to actually have physical gold and silver sent to you out of your retirement account in an emergency. And so I find that very valuable because right now, all of our retirement accounts, for the most part, are in paper. We're very vulnerable doing that. Having physical, tangible assets is vital. And in a retirement account, being that it's so easy to do, owning physical silver in a retirement account is paramount because, number one, you're going to do tremendous value added. If you just look at the market system itself, people won't believe this, Stan, they won't. In the last 20 years, gold has outperformed the Dow Jones market and Warren Buffett, which a lot of people think is the most successful investor in our time. Gold has actually outperformed both of those in the last 20 years substantially. So if they just had bought at the beginning of 9/11, they just had bought themselves gold, for instance, and just set it there, they would be financially better off next to individual stocks, of course. That's how valuable having the physical metal is. But more importantly, I like it because if there is an emergency, you can have it actually sent to you and deal with the taxation of it the following year. To me, that has a lot of value, and more than anything, peace of mind for sure.
So, what do you see coming for the rest of this year? Big question.
Well, it looks like they want to print a lot more money. And it looks like both sides of politics want to do it. They're throwing around $1 trillion, $3 trillion like it doesn't mean anything. $1 trillion is an unbelievable amount of currency to create out of thin air. It is not going to be healthy. So what we see coming for the rest of the year is a battle on how much they can actually print. They're battling right now. Once they do that, we are going to have serious problems with inflation. We think prices are expensive now in food, housing, and automobiles. We haven't even begun. There's literally trillions and trillions in the banking system sitting in cash. I just did this on my television program. I have a TV program that airs in Christian television. And I was just showing all the top 4 banks in the United States, how much cash they're sitting on versus how many loans they're putting out. They can't loan out money based off the cash that's there. And that's a normal thing. Normally, if there's cash in a bank, they loan out loans. The banks haven't loaned out loans to that ratio since 2008. All that cash is sitting there. If that cash actually gets put into the system and goes to work, we're going to have so much inflation, and it's not stopping. So when you hear them say transitory inflation or it's temporary, that's just not true. I can make the case with data that this is absolutely going to stay with us, and the policies they're getting ready to put in are going to make it even worse. And it's sad for me because those that have assets to protect, we can go into gold and silver to protect ourselves from inflation. But these policies are going to hurt the poor and the middle class the most as food prices continue to rise, as gas has gone up, 50, 60% ever since Mr. Biden has taken over. And so these prices are going to continue to rise, which will harm the very people that they're supposed to be protecting. And that's the concern for me, and why I also believe we in the kingdom need to be properly. Now, this is actually how Cornerstone got started with dreams. I didn't want to do it. I was done. But God made it pretty clear, no, get my people ready. Because there's going to come a time that we in the kingdom who have our assets properly protected, we will have that wealth transfer from the wicked to the innocent. There's no doubt about it. We will have resources, but those resources, although God doesn't mind if we want to eat filet mignon or drive a fancy car, I believe those resources are going to be paramount to help our neighbor, our friends, and our family that just don't have the resources.
Amen.
We're going to need that to further the gospel and to help those less fortunate for sure.
Okay, let me read this headline. This comes to us from moneysavingexpert.com. Headline: Tesco Bank has announced it will close all of its 213,000 current accounts on November the 30th, 2021. But credit card, loan, insurance, and most savings customers aren't affected. We have full info on what's happening and what you need to know below. He goes on to say, the banking arm of the supermarket giant had already closed its current account to newbies in December 2019, but it will now close them for existing customers too. Many took out the account to benefit from in-credit interest, but Tesco Bank stopped paying this in September last year. Tesco says the closures are part of a strategy of focusing on products and services that, quote, best meet the needs of Tesco shoppers, unquote, adding that only 12% of the accounts is closing or being used by primary bank accounts. Now, hang on. I'm not finished with the question. Let me have to scroll down here. But just yesterday, in yesterday's program, I read this. I'm scanning for it. It said that So here it is. From October 15th, credit card companies will move the interest rate down from 17.5%, 22.5%, down to a basic bank rate of as low as 1%. Now, is that signaling that we might be looking for some kind of a crash here? What's going on?
Oh, you better believe that one. Not only signaling looking for the crash, this is where it gets diabolical in my world. They're preparing us for a cashless society. What is going to come out of this? This pandemic was supposed to last 2 or 3 years, the lockdowns. President Trump was way too successful, I think, and it really freaked out the international elite. I believe that they wanted these lockdowns to last a few years to completely destroy the system, to usher in what we call the Great Reset, the redoing of the global economic system. Part of the Great Reset is going to be central bank digital currencies. Now, initially, they're going to come out and they're going to say, we're going to have a digital currency. We will keep this around for a little while, but you better believe currency will disappear. So they're setting us up for a digital world, which we should oppose at all levels, because once we go digital, 100% of everything we do is monitored. And if you think we're censored now, can you imagine if we're not politically compliant in the future? You don't listen to us, we will turn off your money. Even to the point, if it's digital, they can actually cut off your range. Well, you're non-compliant, so therefore you can't go 20 miles from
the forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And I think it's really creepy and scary because we're this close to doing it. And so I believe what they're setting up, the reason they're dropping these rates, they're going to make a few points spread on every single transaction anyway. I'm not sure where the fight between Visa, MasterCard, and the banks will be, but they're setting it up, and Stan, they're setting up negative interest rates. And that doesn't make sense to us. What does negative mean? Meaning if I put $100 bill in the bank, I get back 90. If I don't spend it, that's the idea of electronic money. They can force us to spend or not spend. I'm sorry, Joe Public, we don't want you spending money right now, so they will not allow us to spend. That's why I think it is so absolutely vital that we own physical, tangible assets, especially like silver. It's not in the bank, you see. They can't control that. Now, we would have to sell it and go back into that digital world, but at least we would have something outside of the control mechanism. So they're definitely setting it up. They know it's coming. I don't know exactly the timing of this, but I do know with all the data, we are 1 to 2 years from this massive transformation taking place. They're trying to use this virus as a technique and a fear mechanism to submit the population, to get ready for this transformation. And then it's going to morph into the concept of a great reset. And so they're doing it for a purpose. They're doing it for a reason. I believe free people all over the world should stand and say, no, do not allow it, and continue to force them to keep our option for physical money, because physical money is honest money in the sense that I can transact with you. We can sell something to each other. I can pay someone to mow my lawn and give them $20 to mow the lawn, and it's nobody's business. Digital, they will know everything. And if they don't like who you're talking to, if they don't like what you're saying, they're just going to turn off the switch, just like you've experienced with credit cards. We all have, where we're at dinner. Oh, I'm sorry, this was declined. They thought it was fraud. And then we had to call the company and have it turned back on. That terrifies me, Stan.
Okay. So We're in a situation now where we want to get some precious metals. We've got a little bit of money. We don't have a whole lot. So we call cornerstoneassetmetals.com. We place an order. What is that like? Is that something where the order is placed right then, the metal is shipped right then? Or are there some short supplies? Is there some time? Does it take 6 to 8 weeks? How long does it take to get it?
Well,
In
it
other words,
was. Yeah,
how do you
the
plan?
whole COVID process was really difficult for the first 6 months of the year here. We are just now getting caught up. We were getting as much as 8 weeks behind on larger orders, which was a real issue. A lot of products, certain gold product, certain 10-ounce bars, other products we can deliver very quick. Probably within 2 weeks, you would have it. We are now, though, thank goodness, equipment has arrived. Labor is getting forced to go back to work now. They can no longer stay on welfare. And so now we're starting to pick up production just now. So for
Wow.
those that did buy already and they had a longer delay, thank you so much for your patience. Once you do order it, the material is purchased. We're just waiting to have it actually manufactured and minted. But there are products we can deliver very quickly. Our actual cornerstone crown is right now, it's going to be in the area of 4 to 6 weeks. We can even get that down, I think, 2 to 4 weeks soon because of the improvements we're getting. But we were delayed for a while, Stan. Supply was tight, and
Okay.
it is
So
tight.
the point
So
being is
I
don't
would really
expect
encourage people, if they
overnight.
want to, they better jump on it now.
Yeah,
Why?
it'll take a little while. Meaning, if you want to have that gold or silver in your hands, you best be getting that order placed here pretty soon. Again, now let me give you a disclaimer. We're not giving financial advice on this program. We're talking Bible prophecy. We're not suggesting you buy anything. It is totally your decision. But if you want to get something, then we're going to send you to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. I'll say it again, cornerstoneassetmetals.com, cornerstoneassetmetals.com. And Terry, tell us about, I understand they first set up an account. There's some things that they do. What's that procedure?
Well, there's a few different ways to go. We are able to do checks over the phone, which is wonderful. Now, it does have about a 7-day process in order for the checks to be confirmed and collected. Once the funds are collected, then it goes in the queue for shipping and minting. Multiple products can ship fairly quick. Some of the products can take 2, 4, 6 weeks. So it just depends on what you're buying. But once the funds are collected, then the process starts. But the good news is when you do call and you do submit a check by phone, you actually lock in your order right at that moment. So if the price is rising, you don't have to be concerned because as soon as you make that order, it's purchased and it's locked in. And then it's just a matter of the process of either minting it or putting it in the queue for delivery. If you go, you can wire funds. If it's a retirement account, the custodians do the transfer of funds for you. But the process is a lot cleaner than it was back in the day because we can do checks by phone. And so that's a good thing. We don't no
Amen.
longer have to mail anything.
Amen. Well, Terry, thank you so much for being on Prophecy Club today. I have to have you back again. And in the meantime, go to cornerstoneassetmetals.com or their phone number is 888-747-3309. Thank you, Terry. God bless you.
God bless you, Stan. Thank you.
Due to many emergencies across the land, most people are out of Berkey water filters. We have them in stock at prophecyclub.com. In 2017, God blessed me by helping me to memorize the book of Revelation. God showed me a secret door, which is based upon a single word found in Revelation and Leviticus, linking the feasts to the prophecies. When linked, a person enters into an understanding of Bible prophecy not previously known. Even though I've been in the world of Bible prophecy for 40 years, frankly, I did not know anything of what is in this book. One prophetic word described it this way: there is a lock that I have put over a word in the book of Revelation that I'm going to open to you. It will turn so many books written on the end time message into obsolete books. That's this book. 2 amazing prophecy charts on the back flap, 12 inches by 9 inches. Imagine a book on prophecy that brings a fresh, new, accurate perspective.